She left the door unlocked. That's how it started. Not with lipstick on a collar. Not with a mysterious text. Just a door. Slightly open. Too quiet on the other side. I wasn't supposed to be home that early. But my meeting got canceled, and I thought I'd surprise her. It was our anniversary. Not that she remembered. I pushed the door open with one finger. Slow. Like peeling back a page I already knew I wouldn't want to read. She didn't hear me come in. She was laughing. That kind of laugh I hadn't heard in months. Light, melodic, real. It wasn't for me. I stood there, half inside the house, half still out in the world where everything made sense. And then I saw it. She was on the couch. Cross-legged. Barefoot. Phone to her ear. Talking low. Too low. Then that phrase. No, he has no idea. He still thinks I'm tired all the time. A pause. A giggle. You should have seen his face when I said I wasn't in the mood again. I almost felt bad. Almost. I didn't move. I didn't clear my throat. Didn't slam the door. I just stood there, letting her words fold around me like wet cement. Heavy. Cold. Permanent. The worst part? I wasn't even angry. Not yet. What I felt was deeper. Older. Like finally realizing you've been speaking to a ghost for years. She kept talking. Yeah, last time was quick. But I've missed you. Real touch. Real connection. That word. Connection. She used to say that about me. I backed out of the doorway. Quiet. Careful. Like someone tiptoeing out of a crime scene, except the blood was mine. I got in my car. Sat behind the wheel. Didn't start it. Just stared at the steering column, trying to breathe around the fact that my marriage had already ended. And I was the last to know. She didn't see me. Didn't know I'd been right there. And that was her first mistake. Because up until that moment, I'd been passive. Forgiving. Predictable. But she just unlocked the wrong version of me. I wasn't going to yell. Wasn't going to confront. I was going to vanish. Emotionally. Financially. Strategically. And the best part? She wouldn't even know it was happening. Until it was too late. She didn't notice at first. That's the thing about people who believe they hold all the power. They don't check the foundation until the floor gives way. I didn't say anything that night. Didn't come home angry. Didn't come home at all. I slept in my car. Not because I didn't have anywhere to go. Because I wanted to feel the edge of it, the line between before and after. And once I crossed it, there was no coming back. In the morning, I walked through the front door like nothing had happened. She was in the kitchen, pouring coffee, humming. Still wearing that oversized hoodie I used to love. It looked different now. Hey, she said, glancing up. Thought you had meetings today? I nodded. They canceled. That was it. She didn't ask more. And I didn't offer. That was the first real move. Not silence. Withholding connection. She thought distance was her weapon. She was about to learn what it felt like when someone stops reaching and means it. Over the next few days, I became the man she always claimed to want. Detached. Calm. Low maintenance. I stopped asking where she was going. Stopped checking her calendar. Didn't ask how she slept. I started going to the gym again. Long sessions. No explanations. I stayed late at work, even when I didn't have to. And when I got home, she'd be there. On the couch. Phone in hand. Waiting for a reaction that never came. One night she looked up and said, "You've been quiet lately." I smiled. Just tired. And walked past her like she was furniture. She blinked, a tiny glitch in the performance. She wasn't used to being the one left hanging in the air. She tried to bait me. Started wearing perfume around the house again. Played old playlists she used to mock. Laughed louder at messages on her phone. The same phone I knew was hiding a whole different version of her. I didn't ask. Didn't flinch. Didn't even glance. Because once you know someone's cheating, their affection becomes theater. And I wasn't buying a ticket. Instead, I watched. Took mental notes. She thought she was being careful. She wasn't. People get sloppy when they think you're still asleep. And me? I was wide awake. By the end of week 1, she started cracking. Not visibly. Not with tears or apologies. But in glances. In pauses that lasted half a second too long. I'd come home late again. She was waiting. Hair done. Makeup light. But intentional. Pasta on the table. Wine breathing. No occasion. Just fear. "Hey," she said, too casually. "Thought we could eat together tonight." I sat. Ate. Didn't comment on the food. She kept watching me, waiting for the smile, the compliment, the warmth. But there was none left to give. She reached across the table. Fingertips brushing mine. I moved my hand. Slowly. Not dramatic. Not cruel. Just away. Her face didn't fall. Not yet. But her hand stayed there a second too long, before retreating like it got burned. I finished eating, said thanks, took my plate to the sink, and left her sitting at the table, with 2 glasses of wine, and only one person drinking. The silence was louder than a scream. She started sending texts the next day. Not the usual cold one-word replies I'd gotten for months. These were softer. Tentative. Hope your day's going okay. What do you want for dinner? Miss you. I responded, but not how she wanted. Fine. Anything. Cool. Each word was a mirror. Each message a reminder of what she'd trained me to accept. She used to withhold affection like it was currency. Now I was giving her the same transaction, but with the bank closed. She started staying up later than me. I'd walk past the living room, and she'd pretend to be watching something. But I could feel her eyes tracking my movements. One night, I opened the closet. Half of my things were already missing. Moved into drawers. Bagged. Prepared. She didn't notice. She never noticed what I gave up. Only what I took back. She stopped initiating physical touch after that. Not because she didn't want to. Because she couldn't risk the rejection. And that's when I realized. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need a confrontation. I was becoming the consequence. Her voice changed, too. Less smug. Less sure. She asked me one night, "Is everything okay between us?" I looked at her. Calm. Measured. Everything's exactly where it's supposed to be. She didn't ask again. Because she could feel it. The vacuum. The slow withdrawal of everything I used to give freely. And the worst part? I was still there. Still sleeping beside her. Still drinking coffee from the same mug. Still folding laundry. And that haunted her more than if I'd left. Because ghosts don't pack bags. They linger. And she was starting to see one every time she looked at me. 2 weeks in, and she finally understood something was off. Not a phase. Not a mood. Something deeper. She was starting to drown in the stillness she created. It wasn't the silence that scared her. It was the unfamiliar weight of being on the outside. Looking in. That Friday, I came home to candlelight. Table set for 2. Her favorite playlist low in the background. And her. Standing in the middle of the room. In that black dress. The one I once told her she looked dangerous in. She smiled like nothing had happened. Like the last year wasn't a slow-motion betrayal. Thought we could do something nice tonight, she said. I didn't flinch. Didn't compliment the dress. Didn't give her what she was reaching for. Looks nice, I said. And walked to the kitchen. I poured myself water. Sat across from her. Ate in silence. She kept trying small jokes, light questions, leaning forward just enough for her perfume to fill the space. But I didn't reach across that table. Not physically. Not emotionally. Because I knew what this was. A test. She wasn't reconnecting. She was checking for cracks in the armor. After dinner, she asked, "Want to watch something together? Like old times?" I stood, brought my plate to the sink, and said, "I'm heading to bed early." She blinked. That soft inhale women do when they've just lost control but don't want to show it. I didn't wait for a response. Just walked upstairs. She followed 5 minutes later. Quiet steps. Like she didn't want me to hear her disappointment. In bed, she slid in next to me. Close. Too close. I didn't move away. But I didn't move toward her either. Her fingers brushed my arm. A second passed. Then 2. I didn't flinch. Didn't respond. Just let it sit there, her hand, unanswered. Eventually, she pulled away. Turned her back. But I could feel it. She was still awake. Still hoping for something. I gave her nothing. Because when someone treats your love like an option, they should never be sure of your presence again. And that night, she felt what I had felt for months. That horrible ache of being so close to someone who's already gone. The next morning, I woke up early. Before her. Again. Not because I had somewhere to be, but because I didn't want to share the silence anymore. I brewed my own coffee. Didn't pour hers. Didn't even glance at her mug. That was the first thing I took back. The small kindnesses. The ones she used to accept like oxygen. Without ever saying thank you. By the time she came downstairs, I was dressed. Keys in hand. Emotionally gone. "You're up early," she said, trying to sound casual. I just nodded. Yeah, got things to do. And I did. First stop, a private bank account. Small. Clean. Untraceable. Started with a quiet transfer. Then another. Then another. Not enough to raise alarms. Just enough to remind myself. My future didn't have to be tied to hers anymore. After that, I canceled 3 subscriptions. One she didn't know I'd been paying for. Her meditation app. That overpriced skincare box. The meal plan she never actually followed. That night, she looked up from her tablet. Spotify's not working. I shrugged. Must have expired. She waited. Expected me to fix it. I didn't. Because I wasn't her tech support anymore. Wasn't her safety net. Wasn't her anything. She noticed the shift in energy. Noticed the way I scrolled through my phone without hiding the screen. The way I didn't ask about her day. The way I stopped saying, drive safe. And so she started performing. More makeup. Shorter skirts. Lingering in the hallway when I walked out of the shower. She thought she could bait me back into orbit. But I wasn't hers to summon anymore. She even cooked one night. Something homemade. Lasagna from scratch. The kind she used to make when we first moved in. I sat. Ate. Said thank you. But that was all. When she reached for my hand across the table, I looked down at my phone. And that broke her more than any fight ever could. Because kindness is one thing. But indifference? Indifference is extinction. She thought I wasn't paying attention. She thought I was just sulking, nursing some quiet grudge. Waiting to be loved again. But I wasn't waiting. I was watching. It started with her phone. She used to leave it anywhere. Face up. Unlocked. Casual. Now. Always face down. Always in her pocket. Always silent. That alone wouldn't have meant anything. But then came the smiles. Smiles she gave to no one in the room. Half-second flickers when a message came in. Subtle. But not invisible. Then the yoga classes, twice a week. Always starting late. Always ending later. I didn't ask. Didn't accuse. I just started logging things. Dates. Times. Gaps in her stories. She'd come home flushed, tired, sweaty from class. But her perfume was fresh. Her hair, too perfect. And one night, I noticed something small. A tan line. Thin. Precise. Just one. Across her collarbone. The exact shape of a necklace she wasn't wearing anymore. I hadn't bought it. I'd never seen it. And just like that, I knew. She wasn't just drifting. She was gone. She still played her part. Dinner sometimes. Forced laughter. Let's plan something this weekend. She offered one night, too brightly. I nodded. But in my head, I was already designing the exit. Next day, I checked the phone bill. Not hers. Mine. Because I'd set up the account years ago. And she never changed the password. One number stood out. Late night calls. Midday texts. Repeating. Always the same area code. Always the same rhythm. I copied it down. Cross-checked it with her social media. Private. Locked down. But her friends weren't so careful. People tag people. People smile too much in photos they think no one's looking at. And there he was. David. Polished. Boring. The kind of man who wears loafers with no socks and thinks it's edgy. A junior partner at some real estate firm. A few mutual friends through her office. And a comment on one of her old photos that said, "Next time, it's my turn to pick the wine-winking face." It was dated 3 months ago. 3 months. Of playing house. Of sitting across from her at dinner. While she saved her laughter for someone else. But I didn't confront her. Because confrontation implies hope. And I had none left. Instead, I opened a folder on my laptop. Named it Closure. Inside, I saved screenshots. Phone logs. Photos. No threats. No messages. Just facts. Because when I finally walked, I wanted everything to be clean. She still doesn't know I know. Still kisses me on the cheek like routine. Still drops vague phrases like, client call ran long, or traffic was wild. And I nod. Sip my coffee. Smile like a man too dull to notice. But inside, I'm sharpening the knife. And it's made of silence. She started acting sweeter. Not because she missed me. Because she felt me missing. Not physically. Emotionally. Energetically. I was still coming home. Still sleeping in the same bed. Still answering when she spoke. But I had disappeared where it mattered. And that was driving her insane. She tried reeling me back in with familiarity. You've been quiet lately. Want to do that pizza place again? The one we used to love. I smiled. Not really hungry. No explanation. No apology. Just detachment. She blinked. Waited for a punchline that didn't come. That night, I stayed up after her. Laptop open. Finances pulled up. I moved another transfer into the private account. Closed one shared credit card. Rewrote my emergency contact form at work. She slept like everything was normal. She had no idea she was already losing me in decimals and digits. The next morning, she came into the kitchen in that sweatshirt she always wore when she wanted to be relatable. Hair up, glasses, coffee mug hugged close like a shield. "You're working late again?" she asked. I nodded. Something like that. She watched me for a beat, waiting for elaboration, for softness. I gave her none. She shifted in place. "I feel like you've been off." I tilted my head, studying her. "Maybe you're just not used to the silence coming from my side." That landed. She didn't answer, just nodded slowly and stepped back like she'd touched something sharp. Later that week, she got bolder. She dropped the name. "You know David from work? The guy in acquisitions." She said it casually. A test. I didn't flinch. "Yeah." Heard the name. She smiled. Just slightly. Like she thought she still had control. Like she thought if I was suspicious, I'd show it. But that was her biggest miscalculation. Because the scariest man in the room isn't the one who screams. It's the one who already knows. And hasn't said a word. That night, she came to bed early. No phone. No scrolling. She lay on her side, watching me. I searching, waiting for something to break. Instead, I turned off the light, rolled onto my back, and let the silence do the rest. She didn't sleep. I could hear it, the uneven breaths, the subtle tension in her limbs. She was afraid, not of being caught, of being read, because now she didn't know what I knew. And that uncertainty was killing her faster than any confession ever could. I started removing myself piece by piece, not in bags, not in boxes, but in silence, one drawer at a time. I took my passport, moved it to my desk at work, my birth certificate, into a locked folder in cloud storage under a name she'd never guess. Then came the keys. Spare apartment keys she used to keep in her bag? Gone. The emergency stash of cash we kept for rainy days? Split. Half moved. Half replaced with blank envelopes. She didn't notice. Of course she didn't. She thought love was permanent. That no matter how she treated me, I'd stay. Because I always had. But staying? That was the old me. This version was planning an escape so clean, so quiet. It would feel like evaporation. She started talking in we again. "We should go somewhere this summer. We could use a change of scenery. We've been disconnected." I nodded, smiled. But every time she said we, I heard you, and the version of me you killed slowly. I began sleeping with my phone under the pillow, not because I was hiding anything, but because she was starting to sense the shift. And people who feel power slipping start reaching for it. She hovered more. Watch what I packed for work. Glanced at my texts over my shoulder. "Who's that?" she asked once. I looked her dead in the eye. "A lawyer." She froze. "Why?" "Work stuff." That was a lie. It was a divorce attorney. We'd already had 2 calls. The third would be face-to-face. I wasn't preparing to destroy her. I was preparing to disappear from her jurisdiction. That weekend, I didn't come home until midnight. She was on the couch, lights off, TV still playing. She sat up like she'd been waiting. "You didn't text," she said, voice flat. I didn't think I needed to. And that was the first time she didn't argue. She just nodded, looked down like someone reading a script she didn't write. She knew, not the details, but the shape of the ending. She could feel the weight shifting, the balance tipping. And for the first time, she wasn't the one controlling the silence. I wasn't punishing her. I wasn't retaliating. I was disconnecting power, line by line, wire by wire. And soon, when she tried to flip the switch, nothing would turn back on. It was the night before I left. She must have felt it. The shift in the air. The weight of the silence finally tipping in the wrong direction. Because when I walked through the door, she was already sitting there. On the couch, in that soft gray hoodie she used to wear when we were still real. Hair down. No makeup. Like she was trying to rewind something time had already erased. "Can we talk?" she asked. I didn't answer right away. Just walked into the kitchen. Poured water. Stood in silence. Then, "I'm listening." She nodded. Like she had practiced this. Like the script was folded inside her mouth, waiting to be read. "I know things have been off between us." Her voice was shaking. Maybe for a while. Maybe longer than I wanted to admit. I leaned on the counter. Said nothing. She looked up. And for the first time in months, maybe years, her face didn't wear defense. It wore fear. "I miss you," she said. But not just the routine. "I miss how we used to feel like a team." She started to cry. Soft at first. The kind of cry she probably hoped would crack me open. It used to. No? I just stood there. Not angry. Not cold. Just empty. You don't talk to me anymore, she whispered. I did, I said. For years. Her breath caught. She knew what I meant. What I wasn't saying. She wiped her face with her sleeve, tried to hold my gaze. I'm sorry. I really am. I nodded. I believe you. And I did. But belief doesn't mean return. It just means you heard the fire alarm long after the building was already ash. She reached for me. Touch soft. Familiar. This time, I let her fingers wrap around my wrist. But I didn't move closer. Because the moment was already dead. And the only reason I stayed standing was to give her this. The echo. She said the thing next. The one they always say too late. I'll do better. I can change. I met her eyes. I already did. And that was the truth she couldn't crawl around. Because she thought silence was something she could wait out. But this wasn't waiting. It was departure in real time. I told her I was tired and went to bed early. She followed 20 minutes later, curled into a ball at the edge of the bed like I used to. I felt her body shake. She wanted me to turn, to reach, to say something to break the tension. But I didn't. Because what she felt now wasn't distance. It was the ghost of who I used to be. And by morning, he'd be gone. The morning was quiet. No arguments. No last-minute tears. Just sunlight slipping through the blinds and the sound of her in the kitchen, pretending to make coffee she wouldn't drink. I didn't say goodbye. Didn't leave a note. Everything I needed was already packed. Backseat full. New keys in my pocket. Lease signed 2 days ago. She didn't hear me walk down the stairs. Didn't look up when I crossed the living room. But when I opened the door, she turned. Eyes wide. Mouth slightly parted. She wanted to speak. To ask. To stop me. But I didn't give her the moment. Because that moment had died somewhere between her silence and my survival. She took a step forward. I took one back. And then, calmly, quietly, I left. No slammed doors. No suitcase drama. No cinematic final kiss. Just a man walking away from a life that stopped choosing him long before he stopped showing up. I drove for an hour before I stopped. Pulled into a gas station. Stood there, hand on the pump, breathing in the stillness. It wasn't peace I felt. Not yet. It was weightlessness. Like stepping off a sinking ship and realizing. You knew how to swim all along. She texted that evening. 3 dots. Then a single word. Please. I didn't open it. Because when someone starves you for years, they don't get to ask for dinner when the table's already been cleared. I changed my number the next day. Blocked her on everything the same week. No post online. No mutual friends updated. No last phone call. She'll ask people where I went. They won't know. And that's the point. She'll sit in that kitchen, cup of cold coffee in her hand, wondering when exactly it all collapsed. But it didn't collapse. I dismantled it. Quietly. While she scrolled. While she laughed into someone else's phone. While she thought I was too nice to ever leave. And when she finally realizes what happened, it won't be rage she feels. It'll be absence. The kind that doesn't beg. Doesn't knock. Doesn't leave a forwarding address. Because this wasn't a break. It wasn't a timeout. It was a goodbye that didn't need to be said. And I haven't looked back since.